the Inspiring Change podcast brought to you by BAYS. We're a nonprofit organization that works in partnership with families, communities, and individuals to inspire change, growth, and success. And this podcast came about because we as an organization feel strongly that it's almost an obligation for us to share information about things that are important, not only to the work that we do, but also to the communities that we serve. And so today we're going to be talking about men's health, which is an important aspect because for our organization, because we feel strongly that we want to support efforts for our workforce to remain healthy and take care of themselves. And in particular, men's health presents some inherent challenges just based on the population. For instance, men are significantly less likely than women to see a doctor or report symptoms to a healthcare provider. Only 60% of men go to the doctor for a yearly routine checkup, and 40% won't go to the doctor until something is seriously wrong. Despite these statistics, 20% of men report seeing a doctor so their significant other or loved one will stop nagging them. It's important to encourage the men in your life to see a doctor. You can make an impact. So today we're going to have a conversation with a few of the leadership members of the BAYS team. And let's just take a moment to go around and introduce ourselves. I'll start. I'm Elvin Martinez Jr., the Vice President of Corporate Engagement. Robert?
I'm Robert Patterson, President and CEO, and thank you for having us here today, Elvin.
And Jesus?
Hi, I'm Jesus Guzman, Vice President of Technology here at BAYS. Thank you so much for having me.
And Adam?
Hey, good afternoon. Adam Cohen. I'm the Director of Clinical Services for BAYS, and thanks a lot for having us, Elvin.
No problem. All right, so a few questions that we can talk about here today. And, as in much of the work that we do, cultural backgrounds have a significant impact on perspectives and routines and kind of upbringing and approaches based on our cultural background. So has your cultural background influenced your perspective on health and wellness, including your attitude towards seeking mental health help? How about you, Robert?
And growing up in what I would say African American family, my mom did kind of push health. Now, of course, there are times I can remember being young, I didn't go to the doctor, I would assume those are times that my family just couldn't afford insurance. But my mom has always been a mentor, influence, and staying active and health wise. And so, she was the one that introduced my brother and I to, sports. And so, doing that, you always kind of remain active and healthy to a certain degree. Mental health, when I was growing up, that wasn't a thing, either you did it, you didn't, so it wasn't that you had mental health challenges or barriers or anything like that that prohibit you from doing or meeting your goals. But health wise, it was just, you play sports and, that always pretty much got you healthy, and we ate anything. Whatever, was cooked on the dinner table that night, you ate. It wasn't one of these things where I don't like that, The mom cooked liver, you ate liver. You know what I mean? It was the deal. So, but no, I know that I believe culturally, sometimes as African American male, we don't always think that we're invincible, but most people think they're invincible. It doesn't matter if they're in their 20s. They only believe they need to pay for something until they need it. And so it's like the old, one of the comedians have said this, if I pay for insurance, but I don't use it, shouldn't I get my money back? So, and that's what people kind of think, They don't need insurance and until you do. And so a lot of people don't take it. So but I think the older I got, of course, the more I paid attention to it, and the more that mental health became a thing, in every pretty much every American household. And so it was something that you had to pay attention to.
And Adam, how about you? Has your culture and upbringing and background influence your approach to wellness as a male?
Yeah, I do believe it has. Similar to what Robert said, it was kind of lucky that I got into sports, because, excuse me, not that it wasn't a focus to be healthy. My family was actually, my father specifically, the king of really enjoying the microwave in the 80s. And if there was something that we could be fed with in the microwave, that is what we were getting. Again, young me was able to take that in and be okay with it. But in hindsight, not the best food, kind of in that vein. So it took a little bit as I grew up, to kind of find my own foods and things like that because I wasn't exposed to a lot. And then the same thing, just I think from a time period, I didn't have insurance growing up a lot of my younger life. Like if something was severe, we were kind of at the ER, if it got to that point. And with the mental health perspective, it's interesting. I didn't know, again, it was kind of taboo back then that my mother was struggling with pretty severe depression and things like that. And I wouldn't find that out until I was in my early adulthood. So it's definitely all relevant and has affected me in the way I kind of look at things in general.
So
So let me
Jesus,
so let me intervene there. So when you said microwave and meals in the 80s, were you able to experience the bologna sandwich in the 80s where it was microwaved, or were you experiencing the bologna sandwich in the frying pan with the red ring around it, and then it
Mhm.
wasn't done until it bubbled up?
So all of that, including spam, done that way.
Yes.
Um, but but my dad, I think he thought he was doing things special, like when there's like a little cardboard thing of French fries, the worst French fry you can possibly imagine that comes out. But any tiny little thing, and even a fish stick that could be pretty good in the oven, that was going in the microwave. The man loved
Yeah.
the microwave.
Oh yeah.
Man.
yeah, we used to call them TV dinners, the little Stouffer's things. And
Yeah.
man, it
Yeah.
was like a treat when I was a kid if you could have a TV dinner that night.
I wish I
Yeah.
had that TV dinner.
Yeah.
Now the bologna actually sounds pretty good.
Oh yeah. Fried bologna, man. That was a meal, my man.
Yeah,
Now
we
we didn't
used
know
to
how
go.
bad that bologna was going to do to our health later on, but it was certainly good when we had
I'd have to exercise another 30 minutes if you eat one of those.
it.
Hey, Sue, so obviously, growing up in a predominantly Hispanic community in Puerto Rico, has your culture influenced your approach to mental health? I mean, to men's health and mental health?
Well, from my standpoint, it's like Robert and Adam. We we did not have this approach when I was growing up. Basically, it's just you make it or not. You take it like a man. So it's just right now on these newer times, it's different. It has shifted to it's to be seen like not only okay, but actually you should be seeking for mental health and looking towards having a better health or healthy lifestyles among men in Puerto Rico. But when I was a kid, I mean, you just work and provide for your family, and that's what the generation passed from one to another one. Seeking mental health wasn't something that it was even on the radar for my dad or my grandparents.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I grew up here in Tampa and in a predominantly Hispanic community as well. And mental health services were, far and few between, and certainly not something that was commonly available. I don't think. So growing up, we never talked about that, or even knew where to go. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have known where to go for mental health services, but that has changed pretty significantly. Although culturally, there's still, I think, some stigma attached with that. Just the machismo and ego and all of that stuff. So I do think that still presents some challenges. Now, in terms of health in my community, it was always it's very interesting and it's unique to where I was actually raised and born. But the social clubs that existed back at the turn of the last century, the 1900s, the Italian Club, the Centro Español, Centro Asturiano, they were social clubs that actually part of the benefit that you paid to be a member was you got medical services. So if you got sick, the doctor came to your house,
Oh wow.
and they owned
That's
their
good.
own hospitals, and the doctors would perform surgeries and that kind of stuff. So looking back, it was always like the doctors were your friends, in my community, and you really had a different relationship. But I recognize that's probably very unique to the geographical location that I grew up in. So what do you guys think about taking your own health seriously? Is that something that you've always done, or is it something that at some point in your life you started to really recognize its importance as a man? How about you, Adam?
So for me, it's there's been a couple of off and ons. Like I said earlier, it kind of as being younger and being into sports, it was kind of all there. And then when high school finished and I wasn't really playing sports anymore, it kind of dwindled down and things like that. And then, excuse me, I was able to pick it up a little bit more as I got older, and it was just something I kind of enjoyed doing, running and all of that. And then, although I thought about it more after having my first child, it became very difficult and easy for me to find excuses not to do it, just from being so busy or, chasing the kids around and all of that. And then as of most recent, just getting a little older, my older brother, who's only 3 years older than me, he's had three heart attacks. So after his last heart attack, I went and got a full workup with a heart doctor, just because, clearly familial, it's in my family. And I certainly found out high cholesterol, a lot of different things, and it does take some diet, but it also takes some medicine when it's familial like that. So I'm very hyper focused on that at this point from those events, and just, things like having my youngest child, or my youngest child at 40 makes me think that I really need to stick around for quite a bit of time. So
Hey, Seuss, how about you? Have you always, has health, taking care of yourself, always been a focus of yours, or?
Well, when I was a teenager, I consider myself pretty active. I used to, I like to hike, ride my bike. I was very active all the time. Now, when I started working in my 20s, early 20s, my line of work, right? I've been in technology my whole life, and back then, when you used to do conversions of systems, I could see myself eating fast food, hamburgers, pizza at 1, 2 a.m. because those work had to be done when everybody was out, right? So that plus a sedentary life, led me to gain a lot of weight. So that wasn't compatible with heart problem that I had, it accentuated in my 20s. So that was a little a little scare that I had back then, that took me or drove me to start being committed to my health, and then start eating better, and go back to my exercises, just running, riding my bike, and so on. And definitely, I now that I am about to get reach my 50s, definitely I do enjoy it more now than before. Although definitely I wish I did it more often back then.
And those are easy things to like easy ruts to fall into, right? Like eating on the run, and especially as we have a young family and we're working and we have this practice and that practice and pick this one up from school and meetings and all of that stuff, it's easy to kind of fall into that pattern at a
Mm-hmm.
certain period of
Absolutely.
our adult
Yeah.
life, right?
It's a bad habit of us that we don't find that time to kind of like say, I'm going to stop here because I really need to walk, or focus on, instead of eating the full donut, I can just eat half. That kind of habits that we develop. But definitely back when I was younger, uh, you know, you think that it's okay. I'll do exercises one day or someday. I'm still young. And that's true. Up in certain point, your body adapts better. But as you age, that if you don't get to that habit earlier in your life, it's tougher to reach certain goals later in life.
That's for sure. How about you, Robert? Has taking care of yourself always been a focus of yours?
I mean, growing up, like I said, my mother's the one that introduced my brother and I to sports, and so sports itself, as a young person, you automatically, believe that you're taking care of yourself health wise, and then that morphs into high school and then college, and so and then of course when you get out of college, you still feel invincible, like there's nothing going to happen to you health wise, right? And so the older you get, of course, and then you start to realize that, man, that weight didn't come off as fast as I thought it would, or, I'm gaining weight and I don't know why, you
Yeah.
know. And then you have to be intentional about focusing on it. And sometimes for some people, if they're depressed about it or what have you, then they start having those anxiety or mental health challenges and that kind of stuff. And so now you have to really truly really focus on both, but to me, I think, if you don't focus on your health, um, you're not going to be around to be a role model for whomever, right? That's in your life. And then of course, sometimes that, again, like I said, morphs into mental health challenges that, sometimes we don't always know that we're having, until it gets to a point where it's too, it's unbearable. And so, of course, in my household, we didn't, I think the only video game I had was Atari. You know what I mean? And so, today's folks don't even know what that means, right? Like my kids don't even know what Atari is. And so, but back then you had a window to play it, and that other window, your butt was outside.
Mhm.
And so you do have a foundation that happens in your lives, I think, when it comes to kind of health stuff. And so for some people it sticks with them. Fortunately for me, I've kind of had a healthy life, and no significant events have occurred, but I think you work on that so it doesn't happen, right? And I know that there is some kind of, there's some, diabetes stuff in my family, right? And so, so you do work on that to stay away from, being in those positions where that can affect your health.
Yeah, fighting that complacency, I think, is a real challenge. And also, that invincibility, that
Hmm.
I think is this a natural part of maturity, right?
Right.
When you're a teenager or in your 20s, you can't even perceive like anything occurring. So it's not a priority. But then, you know, you start aging and you recognize that you're not bouncing back quite as quickly as you used to. So for me, that was, part of the focus. And having a family too was,
Hmm.
one of the things that made me recognize the importance of my taking care of my health, because there's I have a family that relies upon me and that I'm a part of, and
Right.
that I need to take care of myself as well. So, talking about that, is there any advice that you would give to your younger self about your health or taking care of yourself, both physically and mentally? How about if we start with you, Jesus?
Well, gotta tell you, definitely I would tell myself, hey, get off the couch and move faster or move more like you used to back when you were your teens. Definitely, it is some advice that I would give to myself. Kind of like enjoy that that time that I spent with myself. Like for instance, I love kayaking and I love go to go for a morning run, and I do feel great afterwards. Therefore, I would tell my young self, hey, this feels great. You should start doing it right now so you keep
Hmm.
enjoying this through the rest of your life.
How about you, Rob?
You know, um, to me, like I said earlier, I think a foundation was set that my mom had instilled in us to always take care of yourself. I mean, my mom will be 78 years old this year, and she still walks and still exercises and still do all that stuff. And so she's been a really great role model for my brother and I to kind of focus on that and be intentional about it. In my household, it was never said or even no, there was no conversation about any mental health, right? Like you know um even taking meds for mental health, anything like that. Growing up, you took meds in an African American house, you were crazy, something was wrong with and so no one wanted to be labeled as being crazy or something's wrong with you, so to speak. And so what I would say to my younger self is really stay consistent and be consistent, no matter how tougher it gets in life, because life happens. Like, like you say, you have a family, you have kids, you have additional responsibilities because you have a career, and those things. And sometimes those things do get in the way, and they become, you know, um, not necessarily barriers, but I call them speed bumps to get to where you want to be in life. And if you don't really be intentional and focus on continuing to make sure you have, a balance in your life, meaning, you got to work on your health, you got to work on your mental health, then those challenges start to seep in and get larger, and it's tougher the older you get. And so I would say to myself, stay balanced, stay focused on what you believe is important, which is your health, and and um, and be a role model and mentor to my kids, so that they understand the importance of paying attention to it as they move throughout their journey, in this thing called life.
Yeah, that's really good advice. How about you, Adam?
There's so many things I would tell younger me, but
Yeah. Where do I start?
right. But
Just focus on the health and mental health
Yeah,
part.
right.
I got it. But ultimately, what I've learned over time and the amount of time it takes, for school and work or goals, whatever it is you're doing in life, it takes a long time to achieve that, or a long time to build up your family and be it really before you can even reap some of the benefits of that. So I would tell younger me, in similar to what you were all saying, like pay more attention, be more intentional, so that when you get to the age I am now or we are, that you're not having to kind of negate and work backwards on some of the things that you've kind of already done to your body, because there's no going back.
Right.
And as Robert said, like, I want to do the same thing for my children, and, you know, understand that you can work hard, you can achieve all these things, but you also want to be healthy mentally and physically enough to enjoy them when you finally can.
Mhm.
Yeah. Staying vigilant is a really important thing, right? And making it a priority. Like, you know, making it a priority in my daily life is something that I would have advised my younger self of. But any tips or, you know, resources or anything like that in terms of things that have impacted your ability to take care of yourself or to, you know, connect with services or meaningful kinds of groups that have enhanced your journey in the area of wellness?
I mean, I'll go first. I mean, you know, to me, you know, tips I will give people is, you know, you want to kind of always model yourself after people, you know, when you look at mentors and that kind of stuff. And so to me, I would advise you to get a mentor to help you stay focused, you know, and again, I always say, make sure that mentor knows they're mentoring, right? So, you know, so if you want to talk to them about, you know, hey, I need some tips and advice on, you know, my schedule and how do I be meaningful and intentionally paying attention to my health or intentionally paying attention to my mental health. And so to me, you know, and that's part of kind of, you know, almost having a village kind of deal, you know, so as an African American male growing up in my culture, you know, we don't talk about that stuff. That's frowned upon to even talk about you having issues, you know, and but I would advise, you know, younger African American males to break that stigma, break that, image of not wanting to talk about your health or not wanting to talk about your mental health, because it's important to do that before your mental health or your health make you talk about it.
Those are good points. Jesus or Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with you, Robert. In my side, definitely, I will encourage anyone who I know. It's okay to seek for help when you need it. In fact, especially when someone counts on you, your family, your friends, your peers at work, you have so many people that counts on you that basically it's fair to yourself to say, okay, I'm going through this rough patch. Let's pause and then seek for assistance when it's needed. That way you can basically recharge and then go back to the saddle with a better perspective and you know, kind of like uh, well, recharge yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah, agree with all that. And, you know, one thing I would suggest, and it sounds kind of funny, but it's another thing I feel that men do as they get older and kind of break off some of the friendships and things that they have. They kind of maybe have this idea that, I don't know, that's not being a grown up or that's not being a man. They're just going to take care of the main things they need to. But, you know, having people that you really can confide in and let them know if things are bothering you, could be just as good as getting professional help. But if you do need professional help, you know, there's so many different ways to do it these days. Like, you could join a group, a support group of whatever's going on with you, and find it online, and you don't even have to say anything. If you just want to show up and be there or listen, you'd be amazed how much that kind of thing, you know, definitely could help you.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that I've learned too, just through life is to keep things simple. And you know, like if I hadn't been to the doctor in 10 years, I'm gonna make up all these barriers of why I can't, you know, make the step to do that. Or if I haven't exercised in a long time, the way I am, I'm gonna create barriers or in my mind, right, of why I can't get going. And so
Mm-hmm.
what I have found that all I need to do is just take one action at a time. I just need to start small and, schedule that doctor's appointment and, go for that walk and do something to move in that direction. And it almost never fails. Like when I do those things I don't want to do, I'm like, oh, that wasn't hard. Why have I been waiting so long to do this? So then I can start working on establishing a routine. So
yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes I say that us humans tends to be our own obstacle in life to achieve whatever you want, because we basically make it harder on ourselves. So definitely having that mentality helps to kind of like take that out of the way.
Well, I think it's just the unknown. This is not one of those things where you frequent, you don't frequent going to the doctor or, to a, mental health counselor. So it's the unknown. And so, but until you dive into it and you go, oh, like you said, that wasn't so bad, and I feel better, that you will go back and do it again to stabilize whatever challenges or barriers you may have. But it's the unknown. Some people would jump off a cliff not knowing what's on the bottom of it or that there was a bottom. But most people won't. They won't take that kind of risk in their lives. And it's like, man, it's your life that you're talking about. You ought to pay attention. These people go to school for a long time. This is what they do. It's all right to let them know what's going on with you, and so they can help you.
Yeah. And I think that the longer people wait, kind of what we're saying too, the interesting thing in that is like that builds up the anxiety because like we're smart enough to realize, oh darn it, we haven't been to the doctor in 15 years. So what are they going to tell me?
Right.
Yeah. What if they find something wrong
we don't want
with
to
me?
hear it.
Rather not know, which
not know.
is no way to roll.
What
Yeah.
if there's something wrong with me? Then I have to face all that, and that's a whole nother thing, right? But my experience has been that, if there's something wrong with you, they have a way to treat it most often, right? And to get you back on track. So, it's almost like that reset button if you haven't been engaged with a healthcare provider for a long time.
I mean, I go back to say, talk about your health, talk about your mental health before those two things make you talk about it.
Yep, they will.
For sure.
Well, guys, thanks for joining me for this edition of Inspiring Change with BAYS, and really appreciate the conversation and your insight and your perspective and your openness, really, to discuss something that it's not typical that the four of us would sit around and talk about our health and mental health, right? So we encourage everybody that listens to this or watches this, to make your health and your mental health a priority in your life. And we appreciate you joining us and tagging along for this episode. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.